I'm gonna definitely be brutally honest with this video, folks. Before we get started, I am going to say this is going to be a long hell of a video because this year I definitely have to say it started rough, but I'm glad things got better, near the at times. But at the same time, this is also going to be exposing the truth of somebody, and I am going to go into every detail as to what really happened throughout the months of, you know, of this year 2025. While some good things did happen, some bad things also happened too, which is really unfortunate. What am I kidding? I'm making everybody mandatory for you to watch this. To quote Rhapsody, like, I'm making you guys all mandatory to watch this to the very end, so you could see how beyond messed up this year has been, not only for me, but for other people as well. So, basically, in 2025 was New Year's Day. Not really much had happened during this month. However, I will do say is that, I've been busy, reading stories and, trying to make certain videos, gaming videos and stuff. And, my routine has been usually the same. Of course, I will say that January in Canada is one of the most long but also coldest winter. Now, my brother's birthday was on January 7th, and it was a really fun day. We had McDonald's on his birthday, we had cake and ice cream, and my brother really enjoyed the gifts that I got him. I really do have to appreciate I'm glad to have a brother who stuck around with me for a very, very long time. Like, I've known him ever since, he was born. So, my brother was pretty good at this, at being him. However, what happened is on January 8th, 2025, basically, my mom got a call from her family doctor in the city where I grew up in. Now, I won't mention the city name or the name of the doctor, but my family doctor had called my mom and explained to her that the brain scan results got sent to him from when my mom had to go to another out of town to her brain scan. And when the brain scan results came back, it unfortunately, on the frontal lobe or whatever, it showed signs of epilepsy. So my family doctor didn't want to do this, but he unfortunately had to pull my mom's license. So that meant my mom could not drive the car at all. And we were all very devastated to hear this news. I never asked for my mom to have epilepsy. I never asked for her license to be pulled. The fact that this happened, obviously, I ended up crying myself to sleep that night. Like, the night that her license got pulled, I ended up crying myself to sleep that night. I obviously do have to say that it was really hard, and I don't blame anybody for saying, that they wish my mom didn't have epilepsy. And, this is unfortunate. However, during near the end of January, I had a neighbor's kid who apparently was coming over quite a lot using my computer and stuff. So most of the time I was on my phone, but there were times where, she was hogging my computer. So, I'm not going to mention the neighbor's kid's name, you know, because I want to keep their privacy and respect that. But basically, when she lived next door to me, unfortunately, her house had suffered a fire. Now, it wasn't a really huge fire per se, but it definitely was a fire that took place in the bathroom. So, most of the time, when she's over with me having fun and stuff, she has two younger brothers. One was currently 12 and the other one was 13 at the time. And basically, when their house didn't really burn down or anything, thankfully, but the fire did a lot of damage to the point where one of the kids had neighbors' kids had to go live with their grandparents for quite a bit, and the other one was just with their mom at a friend's house. And while the neighbor's kid, the oldest, was with me. So we basically looked after her. And she basically kept eating and eating and eating all the food me and my mom have. And it was getting to the point where she just kept eating and eating. Now, I am not going to sit here and discriminate anybody or anything. And I don't know if she has an eating disorder because I don't really know. But I understand people have eating disorders that they just keep eating and eating. I am willing to understand, the feeling. Because sometimes when I'm depressed or whatever, I do eat. I feel food is something that keeps me calm and keeps me focused on the shit that I want to do. But she kept eating the stuff, and it really dragged my mom and I for the last few months since she'd been living in my house. So, yeah, I definitely do have to say January was a very shit month because of the fact that, it started off with my mom losing her license to epilepsy and her being diagnosed with epilepsy. So that was honestly one of the worst news I ever had gotten from anybody. It's pretty much like a family member just suddenly passed away and you didn't even know. I mean, I felt like this when my Nana had passed. Like when I found out from my mom, back in 2023. It was just really, really up there. I'm definitely going to be brutally honest, guys. It just was really up there. But yeah, I definitely have to say, sometime, near the end of January, the neighbor's kid was living with me throughout the rest of January, throughout February, and partway through March, which I will be getting to those in separate sections. I'm deciding to do these in separate sections to talk about it because, I just want to, kind of break things down in the detail. I mean, I know Rhapsody kind of did that for when he did, his year in reviews. So I thought I would go ahead and, try that and see how it goes. And if you guys like that I'm doing this for my year in reviews, then I might consider doing them for the future videos like this. So, anyways, January was a shit month because, it started off really good after New Year's Day, but after January 8th, that's when things all fell down because for the last long months of waiting until late September, I was stuck taking the taxi and the bus. And I really don't mind the bus ride, here and there. But the fact that my mom couldn't drive, it was honestly very stressful having to, figure out bus routes and find out, what times certain buses come by at stops. So, yeah, I definitely do have to say is, I'm not used to taking the bus because my mom's always been driving. So, I've been used to my mom driving for a long time. So, and it's cheaper to drive because I will say, taxi rides can be very expensive. Depending on, how far you have to go and, depending on where you're going. Yeah, taxi does get expensive. And, it drained my money, really quickly. The fact that I had to, do stuff, in town. I couldn't go out of town for months. So it's really unfortunate that I ended up having to suffer that until late September. Alright. I guess we can go with February now because there's nothing really much I can really say as for, February. So, January. Anyways, let's get on with February. Okay, now with February of 2025. Now, basically, the neighbor's kid was living with me at the time, and it was really stressful because of the fact that she did not do anything. The neighbor's kid didn't even help me doing, certain chores or help me out with stuff that I need to do, like shoveling the driveway. And, what the worst thing that she had did at that time was she literally locked me out of the house, which I got really pissed off for her for locking me out of the house. I didn't have a phone, so I was banging on the door to hopefully somebody would fucking answer. And I definitely do have to say is that really pissed me off to the full extent. That she didn't even bother to help me shovel the driveway. All she did was play on her computer or the tablet. She didn't even bother to come out and help me. Now you guys are wondering, oh, who's this neighbor's kid's name? Well, I'm going to keep their privacy, respected, if that makes sense. For those who want to know, DM me on any social medias and I can tell you about it. Well, February was not very eventful with the exception of, Valentine's Day, which of course, on Valentine's Day, I talked to my boyfriend and he was doing good and he explained to me how much he misses me and, when I'm not texting him and that I really enjoy, that he enjoys, texting me and talking about stuff. So, there's that. But I could definitely say the neighbor's kid even interrupted me numerous times for whatever reason. She would interrupt me, reading stories. So I couldn't narrate any stories without her knocking on my door or just coming into my bedroom. I couldn't talk to my boyfriend without her getting in my way, which obviously really kind of started to make my blood boil. I wanted to tell her to fuck off and leave me alone, but I didn't want to do that because I'm usually a nice person. But people, you need to be respecting boundaries, and this is why I have certain boundaries. If you think I only have boundaries on the internet, I have boundaries in IRL. So you know what I mean. Oh, okay. Another thing I really do have to sit here and say is that, I also forgot to mention this for my January, script, like not script, but, section, the January section. I actually got my G1, which I'm really proud of myself for getting G1 back in January. So I'm really impressed with the fact that I passed for the third time I written the test. So there's that. That's one of the good positives. But with February, I definitely do have to say is that I was getting really pissed off with the fact that the neighbor's kid, she told me not to get into her business when she uses my Facebook account to talk with her family, when it is my Facebook account, so it's my business because she's using my account. And she wanted me to help her make an account on Facebook using my phone number, and I told her, I don't want to do something without the other people's knowledge. Like, setting up someone's Facebook account, I don't want to do that without their parents knowing, because, in case if their parents, are kind of, protective around them, so to speak. So there's that. But the fact that she wanted me to, she wanted, stuff that I wanted. Like, she was pretty much saying, I want a laptop, I want a phone. And I told her, you have to talk to your mother about that. And I obviously don't even know if she has talked to her mom or not. But her mom probably uses the excuse of she's not mature enough to have this stuff. Like, come on, are you serious? Oh, man. I mean, words can't describe on how really messed up her family is. No, I'm not going to dox the family members' names, but I will say, they're not all in the head, if you get what I mean. But the fact that, no, she threatened to yell at me over the fact that I was getting in her business while she was using my Facebook account to talk to her parents. Well, here's the thing. It's my Facebook account, so I get to do whatever I want on my Facebook. And it is my business to get involved if my accounts are being used or or I'm getting involved into whatever is going on for my very own two eyes. So clearly the neighbor's kid probably has a brain of a 5-year-old. That's just me being brutally honest, guys. So basically, I definitely do have to really say is that it's really messed up. The fact that this has been going on. And if you guys are wondering about February, it was not a leap year. So there's definitely that. But that's pretty much it for February. So I will be going on with the March section. Around the beginning of March was my boyfriend's birthday. So it was around the 3rd of March where my boyfriend's birthday was. So I pretty much talked to him on text, and he called me, and I wished him, happy birthday, and he said he was spending time with family on his birthday and stuff. So usual that. But on that day, my brother snapped, and I snapped, and my mom snapped because of the neighbor kid who refused to do any chores when she was required to help out in the house. She basically said, "Oh, that's my job. Oh, that's Lion Queen's job," or whatever. Like, it doesn't fucking matter. Like, if you were asked to do something, you need to sit there and fucking do it. The neighbor kid, obviously, slacks off like a slob. I'm honestly could say that I was really pissed off to the point, and I had a mental breakdown because I had enough of her living in my house that I wanted to kick her out of the house because of this stress. And I had to bite my tongue numerous times, and I just had enough. I couldn't help it. I just really couldn't, and I had to snap. So, yeah. But, of course, sometime near, mid-March, I had my online school on the driving school, which I passed without a problem. So, I definitely do have to say, I learned quite a lot of things when it comes to driving school, rules of the road and what stuff you're allowed to do, what stuff you're not allowed to do while driving, etc. So I was really pleased to be a part of that community where I met some pretty nice people in there, and the instructor was pretty nice. So there is definitely that I definitely do need to say is that it's just amazing. But of course, finally, after March break for the neighbor's kid, my neighbor's kid finally went to her new home to be with her mom and her two brothers. And I was like, thank God, because it was more money on groceries when she was there since late January. It was more money on groceries, more money on, people, more people using electricity and shit. And obviously, my mom and I obviously were stressed out because, we're trying to make things work for certain people and for our sake and, everybody else's sake in the house. So it was very stressful having to, have one more person living with us who doesn't have any sort of income in any way, shape, or form. But I definitely do have to really say is that March, unfortunately, was one of these moments that honestly was just very depressing. Now, basically, in March, I can't exactly remember what day or whatever, but basically, what happened was Rhapsody, one of my good friends, unfortunately lost his dad. It's really unfortunate that he lost his dad on one of the days that he was there. It was unfortunate that he lost his dad. So I definitely feel bad for him and feel sorry for him for losing a parent. And not long after Rhapsody loses his dad, my boyfriend lost his mom. And his mom basically died of epilepsy because she had a seizure. And unfortunately, when they got her to the hospital and they tried to get her out of it, she unfortunately did not make it, which is very sad. When I heard those news, I was devastated because I only spoke to her a few times when she was around and she was alive. She spoke to me a few times, and she was pretty chill. I personally really had liked her. But yeah, it's pretty hard losing a parent. I'm definitely going to say right now. And for those of you guys are wondering, my boyfriend lives with his grandparents. So that's all the information you'll get if you're wondering about where is he living with his parents or grandparents. Because I know there's some kids that live with their grandparents when their parents cannot take care of them for whatever the reason may be. Well, I definitely do have to say is that it's really unfortunate that my boyfriend lost his mom. So I definitely do have to say. But the good news in March is that my dad came up to where I was and took my mom down to see her neurologist where she got prescribed some epilepsy medicine and she hadn't been taking them since March. So her neurologist said she would call mom in September to see how she does with the meds and to make sure that, meds are working and that my mom hasn't had any issues. So that's a kind of a blessing, knowing that my mom was getting the meds for her epilepsy. So it was just a blessing because it was one step further to get her license back. And the neurologist is the only one that can give my mom's license back. So there is definitely that right there. And yeah, I definitely do have to say March was kind of eventful here and there, but mostly it just wasn't really that too eventful. So April wasn't really that, bad or anything. There wasn't really too much events going on. Like, there wasn't really anything big or anything like that, going around. So there wasn't really too much to go on. But I will definitely say is that we had Easter, which obviously my Easter was actually half decent, which I had a pork roast, which actually was pretty good. I personally really enjoyed it, and it was a really good dinner. Like, I didn't do much on Easter besides the fact of, just sitting there and, making videos and stuff. But the unfortunate thing, and this has been really happening with me ever since my mom lost her license to epilepsy in January, I had pretty much no motivation to write stories or even, like write my own stories. My motivation for it kind of dropped because of the fact that, my mom wasn't driving at the time and I was stressed out because, I'm trying to feed, my mom and my brother, and the fact that I had the neighbor kid living with me for a few months, so it was really stressful like no tomorrow. So words can't describe how stressed out I was during those 3 months. But I definitely do have to really say is that, there wasn't really much going on in April, but I definitely do have to say is that, the neighbor kid after school kept coming over to my place, to visit, and she kept eating the food again, and my mom and I started hiding food from her just so she doesn't eat it, because, unfortunately she wouldn't take the answer about not coming over to the house to eat. If she's hungry, she needs to go home and eat, not eat everybody else's food. Like, that's just rude. Sitting there and, eating people's food, like, helping yourself to other people's food without their permission. Like, that's just rude. I don't know why she did that, but it seems like she doesn't give a fuck. And just feels that, she can do whatever the fuck she wants. So, that's really unfortunate. But I definitely do have to say is that there wasn't really anything too eventful around April. Besides, Easter and that, but, other than that, there wasn't really too much anything going on. So, but it was still, half decent month. I mean, nothing really much had happened, but, I was getting tired of taking the bus, and I was getting tired of taking taxi, so I utterly was just really frustrated with the whole thing That's what I'm definitely fully saying is coming from me. So, I guess we should go on with May. Now in May, we obviously had Mother's Day, which obviously wasn't really too much anything going on, but we did, celebrate Mother's Day, and we did get to, you know, celebrate Mother's Day with my mom and my brother, so there was definitely that. I definitely do have to really say was that, the weather was getting nicer, which was awesome, and the fact that, snow was already gone by then, so I'm really am impressed with the fact that, May was a pretty decent month actually. There wasn't really too much anything going on, but I definitely do have to really say was that we really did enjoy ourselves, and I went on walks more often than to try to clear my head, so from all the stress, so that really did help me out. So like going for walks really did help me clear my head from all the stress that I went through. So I really do have to say is, every once in a while you need to get out of the house and, go for a walk, go for a drive, or whatever, just to clear your head, if that makes sense. So there is definitely that. So, and another thing too is nothing really too much had happened this month, so yeah. I definitely do have to say is that it was usually a quiet month. Nothing really much had happened since then, so yeah. Now in June, we had Father's Day, which of course my dad was, not living with me and my brother and my mom, so I texted him, wished him happy Father's Day because, it's nice for him to hear that from his kids. So there was definitely that. But I really do have to really say was that during these couple months so far in that year, at that point, was the fact that, I've been getting, harassment accounts, alt accounts, sitting there and talking shit, saying nasty stuff, and even, hate watching my stream. Now, I didn't even know who it was at the time, so I obviously thought it might have been Xavier Dilworth, which I thought it was someone else. But like I said, I literally did not know at the time, so I really couldn't say too much because I didn't really know. So there's that. So I definitely do have to really say was that there wasn't really too much that happened this month, so there's definitely that. There wasn't really anything too much going on in this month, so there was definitely that. There was nothing really that much had happened in June, so there's definitely that. July happened to be, another quiet month, like I said again before, but it definitely really helped me give me some hope that my mom could, get her license back in a few months or so. So I was holding on to that hope for a long time. And while it may seem like it won't happen, I really did pray that it would happen. And I've been, praying to God every night, since my mom's license had been pulled. Well, not really, but I've been praying to God since my mom got on meds for epilepsy to basically say to God that my mom gets her license back. And I've been praying to God for that to happen for months. I've been praying to God, every night because of this. And the good thing I really do have to really say was that we heard from the neighbor who used to live next door to me, who lives somewhere else. Basically, she told my mom and I, and along with my brother, that her two sons' bikes got stolen. Like I said, karma bites people in the ass. So basically, what those two boys did was not lock up their bikes, and somebody else probably stole the two bikes. So that's pretty much them getting their karma. So basically, I do have to say, there is a thing as bad karma. So like, if you do something that piss people off or whatever, karma is going to bite you if you wrong people in any way, shape, or form. I know it will hit at some point. So I definitely do need to say is that there's definitely that. But what I definitely do need to say is that, July 12th was my dad's birthday, so I texted dad to wish him happy birthday. I know he doesn't like his birthday, but at least he can hear it from, his kids. So there is that. Now, I definitely do have to really say is that it was a really hot month. Like, we had so many, hot days that I obviously had to have fan blowing air in my face because of the fact that, it was so hot. So, we do get Canadian summers up here. So, for those who live in Canada and or US or whatever you live in and you get heat waves, you probably understand where I'm coming from with this. So, yeah, there is definitely that. So I definitely do have to really mention that the heat was just, oh my god, it was just crazy. So I definitely do have to really say that it was just, I mean, nothing really too much had happened in July. A few, some instances where, someone said something, but, I really didn't understand. But like I said, I really just don't care about too much drama. Like, I've seen some drama that happened with other people, but I just mainly stayed out of it. And what's really good about, throughout this year, I've been making videos on people like Dan Sobel and Amanda Cartrette, basically, stating, stuff of what they did was wrong. If you guys want to know, we do have, we do have a playlist that has videos on Amanda Cartrette. So basically, in that playlist I've created, I basically have evidence that Amanda Cartrette is a woman child, stuff that she did that got people all stirred up, and people have rightfully called her out on it. And it seems to me that Amanda Cartrette does not even notice that she's being called out, or she doesn't even give a fuck that she's being called out, and she continues to do what she's doing. Now, for those of you guys who are wondering who Amanda Cartrette is, she's a woman child that has been on the internet, basically collecting Baby Alive dolls, and yeah. And she supports Dan Sobel, who is a PDF file. So basically, Dan Sobel is a PDF file who basically, did a lot of stuff, nasty stuff to minors and other people. And, I've been watching Sheldon Donner's content to know more about who he, Amanda Cartrette are. But I've also learned about some locals that also were involved in it. So that's definitely, I have to really say, it was definitely something. So, yeah. All overall, nothing really too much had happened. But, some occasional videos of locals, but, there's that. So that pretty much concludes July. So August of 2025 was the best month because of the fact that, I turned 27 on, August 10th, which I got, a lot of people wishing me happy birthday. My dad called me and wished me happy birthday. And, it was just amazing that I got, a lot of birthday wishes and that. I went out to eat at a restaurant called Swiss Chalet for dinner, which was awesome. I had cake and ice cream. The only thing about what happened the day before my birthday was my mom unfortunately fell on the side on a pavement, not far from my house. It was due to the fact that, it was uneven ground or something. So they were waiting for the bus to go down to one grocery store that, designs cakes, if that makes sense. So there was definitely that. But other than that, I've been sitting here and, I've been, wishing that, I was riding again. But it's unfortunate that I couldn't go riding because of the fact that my mom couldn't drive. So I was pretty much stuck in town with nothing really much to do. So it's unfortunate that I had to wait, a long time for my mom to get her license back. And, I've been sitting here thinking, what if it's not going to happen? What if I'm just going to be stuck forever? I was in a deep rabbit hole of depression. Obviously, I had no idea on what am I going to do? How am I going to pull this off? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? Lots of questions been burrowing in my mind when all this was going on in August. So, but needless to say, I knew that things are going to get better soon, and I really generally hoped that they would get better, which of course that will bring up to September. So throughout September, now September 2nd, my mom and we celebrated my mom's birthday. We ate out at a shack, which obviously had good food, which I really do enjoy it a lot. We also, had cake and ice cream the next day. And on 4th of September, my mom got a call from, her neurologist. And my mom explained that she hasn't had any issues since being on meds for epilepsy. And, her neurologist helped her process, my mom getting her license back, and said that it was only a 3 to 4 week wait, which was nothing compared to what we had to wait for. So, near the end of September, I think September 29th, my mom does go down to Service, Ontario to get her license once she got a letter saying that her license had been reinstated. And, she just had to pay a little small fee. But other than that, she when she came home, she told me that she is driving again. That was the best news I have ever heard in my life. That was like literally the best news I have heard in my life. I was really happy to hear that my mom got her license back. I was so fucking happy because, I was really happy. I was excited that my mom got her license back. I said, now I get to go riding. Now I get to go do this. Now I get to go do that. I was really excited and was just really happy because of the fact that, my mom got her license back, which was amazing. I definitely do have to really say, I knew things were going to get better. Same with my mom and I and my brother, but we weren't really sure as to when it will happen, but it turns out it happened. And I am just really impressed and glad that this happened. So I am just really proud of myself right there and then, which obviously makes me happy. It makes me happy to know that my mom got her license back, which is really awesome. So, with that being said, that being the case, let's go on to October. October was the month that I started horseback riding again, which I was really happy to be back at the barn. And, I said, I miss the horses. I miss, riding. I miss everybody at the barn. And, I knew everything was turning out to be better, and it has. The fact that, I get to sit there and, get to do the stuff that I haven't been able to do all year, but finally got the chance to do them again, it obviously makes me happy knowing that I'm doing all the stuff that I couldn't do before when Mom lost her license. And it's just really awesome. And, it makes me feel so much better knowing my mom got her license back, which is really awesome, and I'm really glad that she did. Because, everything was just getting better, and I was really happy to hear this. Now, nothing really too much had happened, but however, KB the Hunter told me that someone was pretty much behind the accounts, and he was having his suspicions that it was Saber Raccoon at the time. Now, we'll get on to all that in the next section, so I will be talking about that in the next section. But I know most of you guys probably heard about that from the recent live stream that, the live stream that me and Simplor did. But, I'll give a recap for it for any of you guys who have not seen the live stream, so there will be that. And on Halloween, I went out as Elphaba from Wicked, which was awesome because the fact that Wicked for Good was coming out at the time, and I was really excited. Even though I couldn't see it in the theaters because we don't have a movie theater here. The nearest one is, out of town somewhere, probably an hour away from where I'm at. But I definitely do have to really say it was that I was hyped to hear that this was going to be another big movie. So I was really looking forward to that. What I really do have to really say is that what I'm really happy for is the fact that I was getting really excited because, I said to my mom, I really hope that 2026 is going to be a much better year, and I'm hoping things are going to get better and even better for us. So I really do hope that that was going to be the case. Now, I definitely do have to say nothing really much had happened besides us having our Canadian Thanksgiving, and in October in Canada we have our Thanksgiving, just before Halloween. So Halloween was definitely really eventful. I mean, I got about 35 kids at my door, so that was a lot of kids I had at my house. So I definitely do have to say it was really enjoyable and it was really a lot of fun. So I enjoyed myself at that time. So there was definitely that. So that's it for October. We will be going to next month, which I definitely do have to say is when the truth of Saber Raccoon will be revealed. Now in November, I definitely do have to really say, before I get into the situation with Saber Raccoon, I will say this is not meant to attack or harass the individual in question, but I do feel they need to be called out for the stuff that they did. Now, I know me and Simplord Queen already called them out in our, recent live stream that me and her did, but for those who have not seen the live stream, I'm going to maybe basically give a all recap of the whole thing and explain what actually happened. So, certain people's names will not be mentioned for obvious reasons, but I will definitely state who they are. If you know, you know. So, basically, this month wasn't really that eventful, except for, a couple days at a time. I was getting out Christmas stuff, and I was decorating the house for Christmas, and I went horseback riding, which was awesome, did some more gaming videos, and stuff like that. So I definitely do have to say, November was pretty fun. I actually really definitely do have to say it was really enjoyable. However, I am going to say the day before Thanksgiving was when Simplord and I got into a group chat with Saber Raccoon, aka Swayze Mutt, and we basically say to him about the alt accounts and that he needs to stop if there are him. So, yeah, we confronted him about it. However, on Thanksgiving, we actually added Saber Raccoon to a group chat. He was cussed out by, people like Megalopony. He was criticized by Herman and Simpler Queen, and he confessed to everything. Those troll accounts that had been, sitting there and, doxing people's names, saying nasty shit. That was all Saber Raccoon. He was the one behind making alt accounts to sit there and shit talk people. Words cannot describe how fucking angry I am. The fact that I knew this guy for 6 fucking years. 6 years! I met him back in 2019 thinking he was a cool guy. And he seemed to be pretty nice and we started chatting and stuff every now and then. He became part of the Z crew. But the fact that this news came out of him about what he did, words cannot describe how mixed emotions I am in. I'm angry, I'm confused, I'm shocked. All of those emotions are valid. But I definitely do have to really say is that when these alt accounts started showing up on my account last year and this year, I thought the person Xavier Dilworth existed and he was making those alt accounts to, harass us and slander us and stuff. I thought it was actually Xavier Dilworth. However, we also thought it was Larry Storch. But it turns out to be Saber Raccoon this entire time. He would make alt accounts, to harass me and Space Trucker and several others. And making alt accounts, which I have kept continuously banning those accounts after I told him to get a job and, fuck off, basically. But when I heard the news that this has come out of that it's Saber the whole time, I literally just feel like 6 fucking years of friendship just went down the toilet, wasted. Because the person decided to come out and say that they did this. And words cannot describe how fucking pissed off I am with Saber Raccoon. Now, before I begin criticizing him and explain what he did, please do not go out of your way to harass this individual. Do not go and send death threats or anything like that. But I will encourage you all, if you're associated with Saber Raccoon, aka Swayze Mutt, please cut off contact with him. Cut off contact from Discord, YouTube, Instagram, wherever you have him on. Because he's not one to be trusted because of what he did. Now, he had sit there and made alt accounts slandering people and saying a bunch of disgusting shit. Now, I am going to sit here and say I won't repeat what the accounts actually said, but some of them did contain a lot of sexual stuff. Like, some of it actually involved minor characters. Whatever it be, minor characters from cartoons or minors in general. It was disgusting. And the fact that Saber Raccoon sat there, sent disgusting fetish videos to Space Trucker. He sent disgusting fetish videos to Space Trucker, which obviously definitely explains why Space Trucker has been dealing with that harassment. And the fact that, these were sent by someone who he thought was a fucking friend. I felt very fucking betrayed that this was going on. And the fact that Saber did it, words cannot describe how fucking pissed I am. Now, we have every right to hold Saber Raccoon accountable for his actions. So, I will definitely be talking about what you can do. If he has harassed you or any way, shape, or form, and after I finish explaining about Saber Raccoon, I encourage you all to block him, and cut off all contact with him. Because what you're about to hear, the truth, of course you probably already did from this live stream me and Simplor did, but I'll give a recap of it for any of you guys who have not seen the stream or do not know. Well, Saber Raccoon was the one behind the Larry Storch persona and the Xavier Dilworth persona and the Sheriff Daffy persona, which is obviously very scummy that he sat there, made alt accounts on another device to sit there and harass me and my friend group. And it's disgusting that he sent there and sent fetish videos to Space Trucker, which was disgusting. And what's really messed up is that he goes behind our backs, making alts, to shit talk about us. And he went from glazing PDF files to, downright hating them. He used one of his alts to sit there and talk to a certain PDF file. Now, I'm not going to mention who it is because I do not want anybody, dragging them into it. But if you know, you know. So basically, he supported PDF files like Amanda Cartret, Dan Sobel, and many other PDF files and, scummy people, menaces, man-children, etc. And I really do have to really say, is Saber, why would you associate yourself with someone who's a PDF file? Like, why would you associate yourself with man-children, menaces, or PDF files? Like, I literally don't understand why you sat there and did that. I don't care if it was for trolling. I don't care if you wanted to spy on them. There's no excuse for this kind of behavior for what you did. There is no fucking excuse there. I'm definitely being brutally honest with you on this. And the fact that Saber Raccoon mass followed Space Trucker on his Twitch account back in 2024, doxing people's names. I'm going to say, Saber Raccoon was the one who doxed me. He doxed my IRL name. He doxed Simplord's IRL name. I know it doesn't really bother her, but he doxed people's IRL names, which pretty much proves that he supports doxing. I wouldn't be surprised if he actually did that to other people. But he also doxed my brother, which obviously made me angry, because if anyone fucks with my brother online or in person, they are dealing with me, because I'm the big sister here to protect my brother from all harm's way. Because, as a big sister, I have to be an example for my brother. So, there's that. And the fact that Saber Raccoon went on an alt and he wanted to find my house address. Don't you know Saber Raccoon, that asking someone for their address can leave them vulnerable to, more harassment or even danger to them or in their family. This kind of behavior is not acceptable. It will not be tolerated in any way, shape, or form in my fan base. That I definitely do need to say is definitely speaking. But the fact that, you sat there and did this for 6 fucking years, I can't believe you turned out to be this way. I can't fucking believe that you turned out to be the scumbag of the earth. I do apologize, people. The situation just really makes me fucking angry. I'm definitely gonna be honest. And what I really do have to really say is that Saber Raccoon actually decided, he told me that he was dealing with an abusive grandparent, and he was dealing with the loss of a family member, and that's understandable for the why he's been angry. But that does not mean he can take his anger out on us by making alt accounts to shit talk. That does not mean you can do that, and it doesn't excuse it either. So, we have evidence of Saber Raccoon for what he did. For any of you guys who want evidence, DM me on Discord. You can DM Space Trucker on Discord. You can DM Simpler Queen or Herman or Megalo or even Zach the Zeltics guy or Cowlin or Dax. They can DM you the evidence. And I definitely do have to say is Saber Raccoon is a potential PDF file. And why do I say that, you may ask? Well, he attacked 2 minors by saying disgusting stuff on his alts. Now, he attacked Callan, who is one of my followers, who's 16, and Dax, who is 17. So he basically harassed 2 minors, which is concerning. So it's possible Saber Raccoon could be a PDF file. The fact that he did that. And what's really disgusts me is the fact that Saber Raccoon on an alt back in June mocked Space Trucker's guinea pig's death. He basically mocked her death when Space Trucker lost his guinea pig. Don't you realize, Saber, how scummy that is to mock a person or pet's death? You know that is just disgusting behavior that you did this on your alt. Like, I don't care if you were doing it to troll or whatever. There's no fucking excuse. I'm sorry for you raising my voice, but I have to definitely say it because, I am mad because of you did this. And, the fact that you went after one of my close friends by sending them scat, which is obviously disgusting that you sat there and did that. I definitely do need to mention that Saber Raccoon also said the N-word in live chats on alts. Like, he goes on, alt accounts, on, people's live streams, and would say the N-word. Don't you know, Saber, that makes you a racist fuck if you sat there and, as you say, the N-word? That is highly racist. Like, it's racist of you to say the N-word because you're white. I have people in my community who are black, like Rhapsody, Sean Jones, Flamey, Megalopony. I do have people who are black in my community, and, if you say the N-word in public, you know that you're going to get beaten up by a black person. So you got to be careful what you're saying there, buddy. Because if you fuck with the wrong person, they'll definitely bite back. I definitely do guarantee that. I'm already biting your ass right now on this, so there's definitely that. Okay, I just need to take a breather for a minute to collect my thoughts on the whole thing. And another thing I definitely do have to really say is the fact that Saber Raccoon, I definitely do need to say, is the fact that you actually sat there and you went ahead and, you pretty much doxed me, you doxed my brother, and, that was just not funny. I don't care if that was funny. It's not. Doxing people's names and that is not right. You do not dox innocent people. If it's a PDF file being doxed, then I don't really personally give a shit if it is. But if it's an innocent person, then yeah, it doesn't mean you can do it. So it's not condonable. I can't believe you, Saber Raccoon. You've basically betrayed us behind our backs, which obviously fucking hurts me. And I have blocked him on everything. So, Saber Raccoon, do yourself a favor. Go and get the help that you need. Stay off the internet for a long while. And you realize you need to take accountability for your actions. And the fact that you sat there and did this, I'm glad I'm calling you out on this, and me and Simplord Queen did on our last live stream. But I'm calling you out here for a better statement, just to get people more to understand the full story for those who have not seen the live stream. Okay. But I definitely do need to say is that what you did is just uncondonable. It's not called for, and it's definitely not something you should, do. So people, whatever you're going through, do not sit there and do what Saber Raccoon did. Do not sit there and make alts to harass people in any way, shape, or form, because if I find out you're doing this shit, you will be blocked from my channel. I'm definitely not fucking around when I say this. So, heed my warning. But I definitely do have to really say right here is the fact that, I was crushed to hear that it was Saber the whole time, but I thought it was someone else at the time. But words cannot describe how really messed up it was at the time. Now, I do want to give a shout out to KB the Hunter for suspecting that it was, Saber for, or Swayze Mutt for making alt accounts to harass us. So, I definitely do really need to say, it's just really messed up of what you did. This path right here, Saber, is a dangerous path to be on. Not only will it ruin your reputation or ruin or destroy any trust with people you've put into, but it will affect your psychological mind in ways that could harm you and your family in the future. So, Saber could be a danger to minors on the internet. He's a danger to people on the internet for cyberbullying. And I definitely have to say, you cannot cyberbully people on the internet. And I'm glad Simplord and my friend circle have put an end to all of this, on Thanksgiving. I'm really glad that we put a stop to it. Because if this continued, Saber, you do realize that you could cause people to unalive themselves. And that would be manslaughter. So you would be responsible for multiple unalives. So you're lucky no one had took their own life because of you with your alt accounts harassing people. Because you're very lucky we didn't even get the fucking cops involved. Because we were so close to going to the police regarding you and your alts. You do realize that if you harass somebody like this again, somebody might go to the cops and, you could get arrested for it. Because this is not funny. And this is actually very serious shit. I definitely do need to say is that if it got worse, you could have caused someone to close their account or took their own life or whatever. And you do realize that that could do a lot more damage to your reputation. But as you guys may know, Saber Raccoon is not one to be trusted. I highly recommend you cut ties with him if you have him on anything that he could potentially harm you. The fact that he sat there and did this for 6 fucking years. He was pretty much a wolf in a sheep's clothing. How has he managed to fucking hide this for 6 fucking years? I don't even fucking know. I don't even know. But I hope Saber Raccoon does get the fucking help that he needs. Especially for all the shit that he did. So I definitely do need to say, Saber Raccoon, stay away from minors because of this behavior. Don't you ever go as far as doing anything disgusting. Do not mock people's deaths. Do not sit there and harass other people with alts again. Because, karma is going to hit you real badly if you do that. And I generally hope karma karma does bite you in the ass. If you continue this behavior towards someone else, karma is going to be on its way to your ass. So you better prepare for that. But I guess that's pretty much all I have to really say about Saber Raccoon, and especially I'm calling him out on the whole bullshit that he did. But here's the thing. If you guys happen to be associated with him, please cut off all contact immediately. He is not one to be trusted. And if you guys know people who are friends with Saber Raccoon, you need to share this video and tell them to cut ties with Saber Raccoon. So with that being said, and with that being the case, I guess we'll go with December because I'm fucking done with November here. Well, December is usually, the month where, Christmas time is around the corner. And the fact that, I'm wrapping presents and stuff. So basically, December was actually a pretty fun month. Getting all ready for Christmas, wrapping gifts and stuff. I mean, the only thing I do not like about Christmas is the stress. Like, I really hate the stress that, comes around in Christmas time. So I definitely do have to really say, I definitely do not like the stress that happens when it comes to this type of stuff. But Christmas only comes once a year, so what do you expect? So I did give some Christmas cards and gifts to people, and they really enjoyed them, which I'm really proud of. And I really do enjoy, spreading joy to people, especially during the holidays. So there is definitely that. I definitely do have to say, it's definitely worth it, the wait. So, I guess with that being said, and that being the case, that's pretty much all I have to really say about this month. So, we'll go on with the introduction of this video. Now, I just want to say that I had, just had to put this in, just before I finished, making the video. But this is going to be before the outro. So, my final thoughts on 2025. Well, a lot of stuff did happen. Like, it's a mixed bag. It was a mixed bag for me, and I know it was a mixed bag for, other people. But it was definitely a mixed bag for me because, I'm sitting here and, trying to process, everything that happened. Like, everything that happened was like, for a fact that, when my mom lost her license to epilepsy, I realized from what she told me was that her cousin has epilepsy as well. But for her to get her license back, it took her 2 years. My mom, it only took several months. Like, it took all the way till late September to get her license back. And, I didn't think I was going to go riding all year until next year or something. But a miracle finally happened, which was my mom getting her license back. I am definitely grateful and thankful that my mom got her license back because that really changes everything. I've been in a better mood since then, and that is really awesome because when I took the bus and taxi, I definitely do have to say was that it was more expensive taking, taxi because, to get to certain locations at certain distances, it does add up. Yeah, I definitely do have to say taxi's expensive, but sometimes you may not have a choice, like if a certain bus doesn't go there. And yeah, that I definitely do need to say is that it really, really did suck. I mean, it started off really crappy, but I'm glad things got better for me, so I'm really thankful for that. Despite some ups and downs that happened, 2025 was a mixed bag for me. There was some bad stuff that unfortunately happened, but some good stuff came out of it, which I definitely have to say, is really good. Now, I will say is that I am working on trying to get my G2, so that's going to be, 2026 revolutions, which will be me getting my G2. So it is taking quite a bit of time, but, eventually I will be able to get my G2 as soon as I can. It is taking a little bit longer than I thought because there's a lot of things that I have to do, in order to get it. So, yeah, I definitely do need to say yeah. But anyway, not to mention that this year we lost a lot of celebrities, which was unfortunately that, we lost, you know, celebrities over the months. But I have to say Ozzy Osbourne's death really crushed me because on July 22nd, 2025, I found out that Ozzy Osbourne had passed away. And when I heard that he passed away, I was honestly crushed because, I really enjoyed, you know, his music, and I liked Ozzy, and I still do to this day, because when I was a kid I used to listen to his music all the time, and I really enjoyed it a whole lot. But the fact that he died, it honestly really crushed me knowing that he had died, because I grew up with them like listening to his music for years. But I was really devastated to hear about that. And, I honestly have been hearing on the radio people, playing his music on radio stations just for, the fact that, um, you know, paying tribute to Ozzy because he was like the Prince of Darkness. Well, I definitely do have to say was that I am still sad that he's gone. I really do understand, that he was, his health was, declining over the years since he got diagnosed with what was it? Oh yeah. I found out that he was diagnosed with sometime, I think in the 2000s or something. Or maybe earlier, he was diagnosed with what was it? Oh yeah, he was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, and he had been fighting it for years, trying to, do everything he could. I do like his reality TV show called The Osbournes, which, of course, that is really, really funny. I personally really enjoy it a lot, and now I rewatch it, and yeah, of course, we do know for a fact that, Ozzy's got, kids. Like, I know one of them being Jack and Kelly, and I know his wife Sharon is still, around, but I bet, when he unfortunately passed away, it really did hurt the family. Like, his family was really, really devastated to hear, because, for the fact that, you know, it was unfortunate that, he had health issues. But what's surprising is that Ozzy Osbourne was dyslexic, which I did not even know about it until my dad showed me a video. But, Ozzy unfortunately, had a lot of health issues, and he was declining. And unfortunately, he lost the ability to walk in 2025 due to Parkinson's disease. And yeah, that really caused a lot of health issues, and it was just really, I mean, I can't even talk today. I don't even know why, but it really did a lot of damage to him. That's literally all I have to really say. Now, if you guys are wondering how did Ozzy Osbourne pass, basically his primary cause of death rule as a heart attack, out of hospital cardiac arrest with coronary artery disease, and Parkinson's disease with autonomic dysfunction, which is mainly played, a part in, his death. So, well, I definitely do have to really say is that, Ozzy did, some stuff. Like, there was, he was, an actor at one point. So, yeah, I definitely do have to say, he was an actor at one point, because, there were times where, he was, you know, an actor, and, you know, did, voice some characters and stuff, which I really enjoyed. I do remember he was in a South Park episode, which it was the earlier South Park episode that took place. I think it was 1998 or 1999. I can't obviously remember when it was, but I'll have to look because, yeah, I remember seeing that episode. I think sometime when I was in high school, and it definitely was pretty good. I personally really enjoyed it. But yeah, RIP to Ozzy Osbourne. I will still listen to his music till the day I am not around on Earth. But yeah, my condolences goes to Sharon, his wife, his children, and his grandchildren because they lost a husband, a dad, and a granddad. So it's really unfortunate to lose someone like that. I guess with that out of the way, a lot of other celebrities had passed away, which was unfortunate. There was a couple other ones that passed away, like, I do remember, a couple, people had passed away that were famous for, movies, like some actors and stuff like that. So, it was unfortunate that, that it happened. Like, I remember a lot of celebrities passed away, very much, I guess, more known ones we grew up to know have been passing away more often was, I think, since 2016 when it really kicked off. So, yeah, I definitely do have to say we do not lose anybody, famous for whatever. I really do hope that, they live a longer life, but I'm not going to have any expectations because you never know what the next year is going to bring. But yeah, definitely do have to really say it's unfortunate that lives were lost in this year, but I know we will continue to, live as best we can for our benefits of health and etc. And we do need to state that, yeah, people are going to die. I know everybody's going to die someday, and you never know when they're going to die. So, yeah, that's that. But like I said, this year definitely could have been better, but I really do hope a better outcome will be in 2026. I do hope that things will turn around and start to get better. And they are been getting better for me so far, so I really do want to keep that up. So, I guess that's pretty much all I have to really say, but yeah. If you guys have any thoughts on, 2026 and what your perspective is going to be or, what you think is going to happen, I generally would be curious and would like to know. Now, to wrap this up, 2025 year was a mixed bag. Some good things happened, some not so great things happened, some bad stuff happened, and overall, it was mixed. For me personally, it started off rough with my mom losing her license to epilepsy, but it started getting better when my mom got her license back. So I'm generally happy to know that, this year is finally over and we can move on and hope for 2026 to be a better year than this year. Because this year started off rough for me, but I'm glad it got better near the end. So I'm really, really happy and I'm just so glad for that. Because I obviously do not even know what would I have done if I didn't have you guys supporting me throughout the last few years on my channel. And I'm going to continue to do what I'm doing. And nothing is going to stop me from doing what I love doing. Like, it doesn't really matter what I do. You guys are always going to be around for a long time. You guys who have been supporting me for the last 5-6 years, you guys have been amazing. And I really am glad you guys are with me, which I really do enjoy, having your time with me and, doing all the stuff that I do. Now, there will be more videos coming up for 2026, so we're going to hope that this year coming is going to be a better year. I know some people say don't say that because it might not be good. Well, I generally do hope that that's probably from personal perspectives, but like I said, I'm not going to judge your perspective or anything. if anything I definitely do need to say is this. It's really, really glad to sit there and, look back on the year and do a rewind, basically, of everything. So, you definitely do have to really say, to people that have supported me, I generally appreciate your support. I generally am glad you guys are around and you help me through, whatever seems to be the case. I definitely do need to say, you guys did amazing. And I generally hope that maybe one day we can get up to maybe 9K subs or 10K subs in the near future. I generally hope for that. So there is definitely that. But yeah, I definitely do have to really say this is just amazing. That, that you guys have been here with me. And I'm generally glad you are saying that you're here. So, with that being said and that being the case, what are your thoughts on 2025? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'm Shadow the Lion Queen. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you're new to my channel, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you're new. Ring the bell for notifications when I upload so that way you guys will not miss an upload. As always, if you guys want to go follow me on Twitter, follow me on DeviantArt, follow me on Blue Sky, follow me on my backup channel known as Miss Dark Shigo, as links to those will be in the About page section, so you guys won't miss an upload. And that's pretty much all I have to really say, but if I'm missing something, please let me know what it is in the comment section down below. So with that being said, I'll be catching you guys all in the next video. Peace out, and like always, roll the outro, because I'm out. What's up, my pretties? It's the Lion Queen here. I want to appreciate you all for tuning into this video, and I do appreciate you guys supporting my video by giving this video likes and stuff. If you really enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment and subscribe if you're new, ring the bell for notifications to when I upload so that way you guys will get updated for whenever I upload. If you want to follow me on Twitter or DeviantArt, feel free to leave a follow on those if you are interested in following me on those socials. If you want to support my backup channel, known as Miss Dark Shigo, feel free to subscribe to it, as a link to that will also be in the About page section. And with that being said, and that being the case, thank you so much for watching, my pretties, and as always, please stay pretty.